semi-limitations as we go on, but here we are with round number 8. All right, so game number 1 is about to begin here. We've got Jason, who is a local of mine, actually. He's been in the scene locally for me in Glasgow, personally, for a number of years, and he loves Labyrinth. He loves this deck.
So when we were scrolling through, you were like, "Oh, Jason, I know him." Like, let's have him. It's nice when you can like recognize some names. It's nice for us as well when we're going through just to find out and pick someone that we know. Because sometimes, you know, we don't know everyone, obviously. So
do we not?
Huh?
You don't know?
I mean, maybe you know everyone.
You're a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Name every Yu-Gi-Oh duelist.
Name every Yu-Gi-Oh duelist. Oh, I know Jason and I know Joe very well, actually.
Super Heavy Samurai is the matchup for Jason here with Labyrinth. It'll be interesting to see what type of variant he's playing. Actually, I think I had a peek earlier. I think it's the sort of the furniture inclusions, the Stovey, the Uk Clock, and that's a huge beginning start. It's Extravagance. Gotta love that draw too.
Yeah, Extravagance is cool. I guess it's cool because we're seeing Prosperity kind of everywhere. So seeing Extravagance now kind of pick up instead. I mean, this is my personal opinion on why people are doing it. Is that if you're running the furniture cards, they all require you to discard a card. So beforehand, like Prosperity, maybe searching the card you want was really important. But now, if you have to discard cards, you might start to run out of cards quite soon. So maybe getting the extra card to your hand rather than the card selection is more important.
Yep, absolutely. And Jason really just has a amazing turn 1 play here. It's as good as it gets. I think the Uk Clock search is essentially guaranteeing, or indicating rather, that we do have some powerful turn 1 plays here with the activation of a trap card on the turn that it's been set, right?
Yeah, and this combines nicely with the Stovey Toy, which lets you set a Labyrinth trap.
So the Droll and Lockbird discard there is really rough because that's a card just by itself, which could kind of win this matchup, right? So a bit of a sacrifice there, but
I guess he doesn't know what his opponent's running.
Yeah,
I love the way the Uk Clock comes out of the graveyard, and then it gives you you can just return it to your hand with the big welcome. Because normally it's kind of a downside. Well, it's kind of like half and half. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad to return a card from the field to your hand. But in the case of Uk Clock, it's like great.
All right, so summons the lovely lady from the main deck here, bouncing the Uk Clock, and
so that should allow you to destroy a card from your opponent's, because a trap card caused a monster to leave the field, then you can trigger its effect, and that allows you to destroy a card either on your opponent's field or in their hand. So he's going to get a peek at what his opponent's playing if it hits a Super Heavy Samurai card, but not. Looks like Joe's getting ready to use a card in response.
I mean, any sort of monster negate is going to just like trade, I feel here.
I suppose, you could choose what monster it is.
Yep. Ghost's Mourner Moonlit Chill, I think is the
Ghost
correct.
Mourner and Moonlit Chill.
Yeah.
It's very chill.
Yeah, she is. It's a bit of a unique sort of hand trap. It works like Effect Veiler in that it negates, but it's a trigger rather than a quick effect.
It's triggered when your opponent special summons a monster.
Yeah.
It has some upsides and some downsides.
I was going to mention the downsides, which is involving mandatory interactions, or I think turn player interactions. So I think one of the most common ones is if it's your turn and you Mourner Masquerena into Unicorn, the Unicorn actually will still be able to spin your card because the turn player will be Chainlink 1 and Chainlink 2 will be Unicorn. Like you can't like make it Chainlink 2. So it actually wouldn't be able to negate Unicorn.
Oh, I see. But if you had Effect Veiler, you wouldn't be able to activate it anyway because it's your turn.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, the idea is that it doesn't work in that exact instance because of the way the chain linking works and the turn player priority, so...
Is it a trigger effect or a quick effect, actually? I guess we can find out.
It's trigger, right?
Later. Well, something like Drawn Lockbird, for example, is a quick effect. So it has to activate in the window of your opponent's special, adding a card.
Right,
but it's a quick effect, so you can chain it at any point during the chain. You don't need to do it. It doesn't work like a trigger effect. I'm not sure about Ghost Mourner.
All right, that's a good point. But the important thing here about Mourner is that, to me personally, I feel like that indicates... Whoa, okay, wow, Joe is just scooping this up here, actually.
I think there's some merit. Again, you were talking earlier about like conceding if the game looks over. There's also some merit to conceding before your opponent knows what you're playing.
Well, I mean, I was going to just mention that. I don't think that Jason doesn't know what he's playing anymore. If I see Mourner, I feel like that's like the 7th best hand trap of the format. And so the only deck that can run that really is Super Heavy Samurai. I feel like that's a strong indication that it's Super Heavy.
I mean, at least a deck that's running a lot of hand traps. So it could be something weirder as well, like Sprite. I mean, some people just like it. I don't.
Fair, yeah.
I mean, I think because of Super Heavy Samurai existing, I think players are gravitating more towards hand traps. So I think in a previous format, before Super Heavy Samurai was out, players it'd be very weird because you could use things like evenly matched quite happily. But now pretty much no one's running evenly matched all of a sudden, even though it went from being like, I think it was like the 2nd most popular card at YCS London, and all of a sudden I'm hardly seeing it at all.
Yeah, I mean, evenly matched.
Being replaced with hand traps.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those sort of prevention's better than cure type of things where evenly sort of deals with a field, hand traps stop a field from being established, and I think something like Super Heavy Samurai just puts up way too much that evenly's, unless you have like 3 copies or something, it's just never really going to be enough to contend with a full field, so I suppose that's the logic.
I guess the new plan should just be draw 2 evenly matched, that's it.
So that was a big start there from Jason, I think, with the Labyrinth strategy.
Definitely.
We're going to move on up to game number 2 here and see just exactly how Joe decides to play with this one out. I think you mentioned that he was trying to conceal his strategy for the against Jason, but going first against Super Heavy Samurai, I think he's going to be in a bit more of a better position, especially since Labyrinth doesn't play an absurd number of hand traps, except that draw on Lockbird, which I mean, it is what it is if they draw that.
Well, we'll see if he's been hoodwinked by the strategy of just the early concession.
All right, let's jump into game number 2 here. Our players are ready to begin, and the God, I love those Kurikara sleeves.
I was thinking that as well. Just intimidate your opponent. You know, all of my cards are Kurikara. Any of them could be Kurikara.
All right, we are starting with Motorbike from the hand here. So Resolution, Droll, and Lockbird is what we're trying to aim for if you're Jason in this scenario.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of players now are sort of fearful of Cypher India Gamma.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously in the feature match, they don't know this, but in the feature match area, you're not allowed to draw Gamma, you have to draw Driver. So, you know that you don't need to play around it. But in general, I think players are sort of waiting a little bit to use their Droll and Lockbird.
I wonder if Joe's aware of the fact that Gamma's going to 1 on Monday. Trying to take as much use of it now. All right, so no Droll comes out from Jason here. It looks like it is going to be... did he search the Wakaushi? Or does he already have it?
No, I think he searched the Soul Piercer.
Okay. All right, well, here is the...
Sorry, the Soul Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. Okay, we already have the Piercer there. Okay, so 100% guaranteed that Joe has full combo. It's just a question of whether or not there's enough in Jason's hand to stop at a specific choke point, which I feel like if you had a hand trap, you would use something by now.
I feel like, so this would be the moment to activate a Draw and Lockbird, I think, because this is the first time Joe has searched a card from his deck while having a monster in play.
Yeah.
But I think if you don't see a Draw and Lockbird now, you're never going to see a Draw and Lockbird. I think similarly, like a card like Ghost Ogre, you would probably see it on the Wakaushi if you were going to see it anywhere. So I think you're almost saying it's probably not going to be much there. And even if there is at this point, it's probably not something that you're scared of, because Baron de Fleur is going to come down with a lot of speed. I think that's the next thing that happens.
Having a look at Jason's list here, I actually don't see any sort of equalizing going second cards. So, you know, things like Evenly, Dark Ruler. I suppose you probably wouldn't typically play that in Labyrinth anyway, but his only real defense against this looks like to be go first or draw a hand trap, of which he's done none of them.
There we go.
There's
That's
Gamma.
A definite hand trap.
Yeah, that is Gamma on, which effective was that? Was that the Scareclaw?
The Scareclaw, yeah. It's not one to sniff at, because again, the power of Gamma is that it not only destroys the monster, but also removes it. So it stops you from just making a bonus lick monster with it or anything like that.
Yeah, stopping the effect to recur here, as well as forcing your opponent to go for that discard and removing the body. Really strong, really strong here.
So Joe going to need some extra tool to push through, because he's used his normal summon already. So he's going to need an extra way to get a monster on the field. I think he may have already actually added Soulhorn, so I think he should be good to go with that. Maybe, unless I'm wrong.
Soul Gaia, right?
Oh, yeah. It's not Soulhorn, it's the Gaia booster I'm thinking of. Soulhorn is not so popular anymore. Oh, he also has the Soul Peacemaker as well.
Yeah. He's got a lot of ways to continue here. So this is, Ballista. It's a rank 4.
He's got a very like chill demeanor, Joe, doesn't he? He doesn't look super fussed about what's going on.
Peacemaker for the scales from the deck potentially.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, and Piercer. Was that double Piercer you opened? Or did he add that back to his hand?
No, I think he's just opened 2 of them.
Okay, so search and a special. Not too bad, actually, from Joe's perspective. You're still managing to push through this gamma decently comfortably.
I think, again, Piercer's great, because even if you open like 2 of it, you can just equip one to a monster in play, and then you still get to just trade it out for another super heavy samurai.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, there is the search here happening. If I can just give me a moment here, I'm going to try and find Joe's list. Because I'm just very curious to see what version of the deck he's playing. Okay, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get that up just now. But depending on what style of super heavy combo he's got, we've talked about a few different win conditions, hand loop, as well as the just sort of the more standard one. Yeah, like lots of bodies, lots of negates. Probably not Tristan's version of the gimmick puppet.
That would be quite funny if Tristan thought he'd come up with it, and then someone else has also come up with it.
Yeah. Is that wagon we've searched out there?
That is a wagon, and we're also going to get to summon Soul Pierce from the graveyard. So I guess 2 different options here. You could just forego making Baron de Fleur early because you've already seen 1 interruption. So maybe you think there's probably unlikely to be another one coming up, and go straight into the Ballista. Get some materials that you want to pendulum summon. Having a little peek at his extra deck here, but that does look like a Baron de Fleur. Oh no,
it's Omega.
It's Omega. Okay, so Omega to me indicates that he's going to be maybe making over Disparter later and banishing a few cards from Jason's hand.
So I think you can play a 1 Omega, but the hand loop version generally wants to use Omega twice and then put those cards back with the Dissipator, as you mentioned. But I don't know if that's exactly the version he's like running here, right? I don't know if that's the exact kind of win condition he's opted for.
Yeah, I mean, he might just run Omega because it's a good card.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a premier level 8, it's limited for a reason.
He is limited, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. That's why they have to make Disparter to manage to instead of just banishing 2. So this looks like a pendulum summon.
Yep. Pendulum summon 2 level 4s here.
He's put Wagon straight in defense mode, which is very boring. You should put it in attack so it can switch itself to defense, then you can switch it back again.
Yeah, you just do a little dance. Turn 1,
dance.
Make your opponent intimidated by your groovy skills of your super heavy combo.
I wonder what card he wouldn't pendulum summon. I guess maybe an extra copy of Gamma.
Yeah, another disruption.
Because Gamma is one of those. It's got a strange line of text, which is it has to be special summoned by a card effect. So that, weirdly enough, that was printed before pendulum summoning was a thing. But obviously, like, you can't not special summon a card with a card effect, except pendulum summoning.
Yeah.
But that was very, very forward thinking by whoever wrote that line of text, which prevented it from being pendulum summoned.
He was considering an overlay there, which tells me that he is playing Gear Gigant X. But after your pendulum summon, Gear Gigant kind of loses a lot of value, don't you think?
Yeah, because then you can't pendulum summon whatever you search. I mean, you can summon Stealthy.
Do you think there's like a particularly like strong end field that is really good against trap combo decks per se? Because like, Apollosa is great against monster heavy hands, but something like Labyrinth might not be like super great. That's kind of...
I've always thought against trap decks, you just want to end with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that follows up. I don't think you want to like invest a huge amount. Like if you can have follow-up, because trap cards often have this sort of like one-for-one trading kind of thing. It's harder to set up floodgates to prevent you from playing because you've already got a bunch of monsters in play. So I really like the approach. You just set up a bunch of big monsters and then your opponent has to have a trap for each and every one of them. I quite like the Gamma here as well. A kind of more measured approach from Joe. He's not going all in. Is that a Daruma cannon?
Yeah, I think a few Labyrinth players have opted to play this as this kind of just one-off searchable card from the deck here. So after you resolve the effect of is it Silver Castle, you can set one from your deck.
Exactly, yeah.
So the Daruma Cannon puts everything face down, and then I think it sends cards up to the number of cards that weren't set face down. So basically acts as like a...
Well, it sends anything that wasn't set. So it sets everything.
So basically links.
Yeah, exactly, and it sends all the links. And I guess if there's any very strange other cards that can't be changed face down, I don't know why. Tokens, I guess. They're strange cards that can't be set.
I was going to say, this is not like the strongest Enfield here, is it?
It's not, but keep in mind that 2 cards have come out of Jason's hand already. One for the Omega and the Gamma itself. So I guess it doesn't have to be. And this Super Heavy Samurai monster has a quick effect that can destroy a spell or trap card, which is pretty handy against a trap deck. And it also has a nice little bonus of doing 500 damage. I'm interested why Jason said it. Oh, he wanted to bait it out.
I have a feeling that was... Is the Super Heavy end of main?
No, it's just... this is a quick effect. Chandra Glare is a quick effect.
Okay, so this must be the end phase, right?
Yeah. But he's deciding that one Labyrinth trap against the world is not enough to take it on.
It didn't seem like much, but it, I suppose, was just honest work, you know? Through a single hand trap, just end on...
a hand trap, and, one card taken out of the hand. Ash for the... There was quite a lot that went on,
Yeah.
Plus, being able to... a spell and trap pop is not normally, much to look at, but also, against a trap deck, it's going to trade for another one of their cards pretty
Turn
freely.
after turn.
Yeah, so I think it didn't look like much, but it definitely got the job done.
It was a losing battle, I feel like, for Jason there, but I think, I want to say the Ash Blossom might have been the true
nail in
turning
the
point
coffin,
there.
Yeah. Denying 2 extra draws. I mean, I guess it's always going to trade with something in Labyrinth, because at very worst, it's always going to trade with one of the Labyrinth traps.
I think the Super Heavy style is to always put up as much disruption as possible. And that's really good against monster decks, but a pure sort of trap deck like Labyrinth, you really sort of have to reevaluate your game plan, and I think that's where a lot of your practice comes from. To be able to say, I can do this versus this matchup, or I can just do my full turn crazy wombo combo turn 1, which generally works against 90% of the meta, right?
But now we're seeing Super Heavy Samurai go second, and particularly going second against Labyrinth. I think this is probably an issue that a lot of players may have felt, because Super Heavy Samurai obviously has this restriction where you can't use spells and traps. And most of the time it's fine. A lot of the most powerful cards in Yu Gi Oh! Are monsters. You can use hand traps to interrupt your opponent on their turn. But I feel like blowout cards against a lot of set spells and traps are often
a Lightning Storm is always
Lightning
huge.
Storm, evenly matched, etc. All really powerful. The spell and trap removal you have to search for in Super Heavy Samurai is a little bit weaker than you'd normally want to run. You wouldn't run Archfiend Eccentric if you could run something else, right? I think it is significantly weaker into Labyrinth, especially because...
there's a world where you also play hand traps, right? Just because Labyrinth, you would have noticed that his opponent's playing the furniture cards, so it's naturally just, I suppose, kind of scary because you know that people are going to be playing Deck Devastation Virus, specifically for Super Heavy Samurai. Destroying 50... Oh gods, wow. Has Jason opened, the full combo? Kuklok is a good start here.
Oh, that's a Chandra Glare.
Oh, sorry, yes. Chandra Glare. So Chandra is the one that lets you use 1 this turn?
So, no, Kuklok is the one that lets you use 1.
This one sets from deck?
The other 2, discard a card and set a Labyrinth trap from your deck.
Okay. So how do you get to the searchable, one-off virus?
That you need to use Lady.
Lady, okay.
And obviously all of the traps can search Lady.
Okay.
But it doesn't look like...
We're not doing that turn 1, but...
But you can still set it up, even it doesn't look like it necessarily, but you can for example, you could search Kuklok with the big welcome and then return it to your hand. So I think he may actually have enough to activate Virus.
We're doing it in the standby phase here, but that's a Epsilon.
I'm very sad we didn't look at his deck list before because I love Epsilon. It's so cool. It's such a cool part of siding Gamma is you can swap it out for Epsilon against trap cards.
Oh wow, chaining the... Is that big welcome?
That's big welcome.
That's big welcome. Okay, huge.
I think
literally large.
I think he's very happy to see Epsilon in his opening hand, and as well, he didn't even have to do anything. Jason just let him use it. Negating a trap and summoning 2 monsters is just an unbelievable deal.
I was gonna say, do you feel like it was maybe a little bit preemptive? Like, what are you really scared of against Super Heavy immediately shotgunning? It's not gonna be a lightning storm, right?
You're not scared of that, no. As I was saying, so I think if uninterrupted, this is probably going on in Joe's draw phase or standby phase. You can summon the lady, and then you can summon a Ku Klok with.
But that
the big
still
welcome.
like plays into something like a gamma, right?
Yes, lady can't be destroyed. If your opponent has like no,
it will still negate
interruptions,
though.
Yeah. So if your opponent were not to have a gamma, exactly a gamma or an epsilon, I suppose in this case, you would, I think, being able to deck devastation virus your opponent, which is obviously what you want to do. But yeah, this epsilon here is a very nice tech. I'm very happy to see it.
We hard drew deck dev. Oh, that's
dear.
incredible. Is this going to be like a full hand loop? There's no way.
It does do a lot of cards. I don't actually know the attack points of all of the monsters off the top of my head, but
I mean, the only one it's not going to hit is Driver.
It's Driver versus the world.
Yep. He is a psychic soldier on the currents of lightning that storms into battle.
1,
2, 3, 4, 5
Oh no!
cards.
And
the one
Jason just saying, "Yeah, that one too."
Oh no!
Get out of here!
That's his whole hand. There it goes. It really is a Driver and a Dream, which, by the way, is going to be banished at the end of this turn.
Yeah, this will be quite the comeback.
Well, Joe can win here in the next 24 minutes, potentially.
Yeah. We know Labyrinth is slow. Is it slow enough that it takes 24 minutes to do?
That's gone. Everything's gone.
Every
every card that he owns in his possession is just gone. That's so sad. All right. Well, should have played some larger monsters, I feel.
Well, he had the Driver.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, maybe Joe. I don't know. I mean, it's mean to say because obviously this is massive hindsight speaking, but maybe he could have known that what Jason was ultimately aiming for was the virus and saved the epsilon for the virus. But that was very.
Yeah.
Did you see that from Joe? Jason's like, I activate big welcome. Do you have any response? And Joe's just like,
Do I?
Do I? Let me
know.
check my hand. Very funny.
I'm sure nothing was meant by that. You know, just making sure that we're getting into the habit of procedural.
Yeah, it's just good habit.
Yeah,
You
of
should always
course.
ask your opponent if they have a response to something.
Okay, so we set that in the standby, right? And now we're going directly to the start of main to use Extravagance.
Yeah, because you have to use Extravagance as the first action. One thing I've always wondered and never actually bothered to look up is whether the first action, like, if you use like Extravagance and your opponent plays Solemn Judgment, does that count as your first action? I don't know. Like if the
well, Solemn Judgment negates the activation, not the action.
Yeah, I know, but what's the action?
Entering your main phase, I guess, right?
Yeah, so do you think you could activate another one? This is Ruling's quiz for the day.
No, you can't.
You can't, okay.
Can you?
I don't know, that's why I don't know. I said I've not looked it up.
Okay.
But because you haven't like activated anything, right? The activation was negated.
Okay, let's ask the Twitch chat. Maybe someone maybe someone can clarify for us.
What is meant by first action? There are some words that appear on cards like very rarely. For example, like one of the most confusing cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think is like Prohibition and Sideblocker, which say cannot be used because they're the only cards where that word appears. So I think that can be very confusing as well.
Okay. Well, we've established set 4 and a Ariana here, so...
And Joe's card may very well just be sent straight into the bin.
Scales.
Yeah, there it goes.
Don't forget Dex Devastation Virus lasts 3 whole turns, so...
Yeah, I think 1 probably would have been enough, but, you know, we just got to rub it in.
End phase, activate Welcome, Special Summon, and we're basically just going to go through some motions here. Have you noticed the rarities of these cards, by the way?
I'm very bad at rarities.
Okay, that's Starlight. I'm sure you've seen that one around.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Starlight Road, yeah.
Absolutely beautiful cards here. Jason actually opted to get a full max rarity of this deck.
Oh
and,
yeah,
we were talking about
now. Yeah, once it's come into the hand, I can really see it.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. Like this is how much he loves this deck. Like he's such a huge fan of Labyrinth. He's showing off that beautiful Starlight rare.
I like the way, like Lady, that he's like. Normally, there's something to destroy from your opponent's hand or field, but in this case, there is actually nothing. He's already destroyed all the cards in his opponent's hand and field. There's nothing left for the lovely Labyrinth to destroy.
Yeah, you know, it's really just about wrapping this one up for Jason.
Yeah, it looks like he's got more than enough damage.
Is this Jason's third Extravagance this duel?
This match, yeah.
Yep, not bad. Yeah, go for 6.
Just sort of toying with him a bit here.
Yeah, at this point I wouldn't be surprised if we had a Grand Maju come down.
Just got to enjoy his time in the feature match, you know. I think the feature match, like, I mean, different players have different things. Some people like really enjoy it. Some people find it very nervous. Some people, I guess, a bit of everything. But I guess if you're enjoying yourself and you're winning, like, why not?
Some people are just cursed to never win a feature match. I'm referring to myself there.
I was guessing.
Okay, so this was a great display of Labyrinth, I suppose. It does exactly what the win condition was. It was to get it into that deck devastation virus, set up, and attack for game here on the following turn. Jason takes this down 2-1.
Wow. That was just devastating.
That was
Yeah.
I see what you did there. Yes. Okay, fantastic display, but regardless, it was entertaining. It was back and forth, I think, for the